I'm live.
I might have to open the door.
All right, Shalom. Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh brothers. Yahweh Shamar Alatan Ba'ashim Yahweh to the sisters. I am priest and officer Shargapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General YAHANNA. And since 1969, he has been raising up Black, Hispanic, and Native American men to go all around this globe and wake up our people, to teach and show and prove our people that we are the real children of God, that we are the 12 tribes of Israel, that we are the biblical Jews of antiquity, the Levites, the Asherites, the Simeonites, the Naphtalites, the Ephraimites. We are the real children of God that descend from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And today we're going to get into a controversial topic. As you can tell by my title on Facebook and YouTube, or even on TikTok, we're going to be talking about interracial marriage according to the Bible. Like that famous Kanye West song, I believe it's Gold Diggers, where he says, and when he gets on, he'll leave your ass for a white girl. We're going to be talking about what the Bible and God says about interracial marriage, and we're going to be coming up with examples of all the things that have gone wrong, or all the things that have happened due to interracial relationships, due to sex between interracial couples, or the rape of people of color by Arabs, Asians, white people, etc. All right. So I'm Priest and Officer Shargapan, holding down the Wednesday class, law class for the Hudson Valley. So if you are Black, Hispanic, or Native American in the Hudson Valley, whether it's Rockland County, shout out to Spring Valley, shout out to Nyack, Haverstraw. If you're in Westchester County, shout out to Austin, Yonkers, Mount Vernon. Whether you're in Orange County, shout out to Harrisburg, Monroe, Dutchess County, Poughkeepsie, all the way up there to Newburgh. So wherever you are, if you're Black, Hispanic, and Native American, this is for you and for any other Black, Hispanic, or Native American people around the country or globe that are tuning in right now. All right. So I first want to start with Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3. Sorry, no. I want to start with Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6. All right. So before we dive deep into the issue, I need all so-called blacks, all so-called Hispanics, all so-called Native Americans to understand one thing, that God loves you. God chose you to be special to him. And God only cares about you. Right? So as we continue, we're going to prove this starting now and into the topic of interracial marriage. All right? So Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, it says, "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth." So if you're reading the Bible and you start off in Deuteronomy, right, the 7th chapter, or even before that, where you should have already known that the Israelites are God's chosen people. Moses was a Levite from the nation of Israel. Joseph was one of the sons of Jacob from the tribe of Israel. You know, you got Naphtali, you got Simeon, right? So these people, these 12 sons of Jacob, these sons had huge families over time that grew into tribes, and God loves these 12 tribes of Jacob, these 12 tribes of Israel. And right here, it says in Deuteronomy 7 and 6, "For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God." This is talking specifically to the 12 tribes of Israel. It's not speaking to every single race of people on earth. It's not calling Asians a holy people. It's not calling white people a holy people. It's not calling Arabs or Africans a holy people. It's specifically talking about the nation of Israel. And so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Americans, you are this holy people that is being referred to as being holy unto the Lord. You are this special and chosen people. God chose you to be special to him. Black people, you're special to God. Hispanic people, you're special to God. Native American people, you are special to God, right? And that he made you special to him, and he put you above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Now, if you don't believe me, you can read Deuteronomy chapter 7 and 6, and you cannot argue that God chose a special race of people, so special that he made them above every other race of people on earth. Now, I'm telling you that God is talking about what we call the people today, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the so-called niggers, the so-called spicks and wetbacks and savages and redskins and porch monkeys, right? God calls them special, while our oppressor calls us all these different derogatory names like wetback and spick and nigger and strange fruit hanging from trees and red savages and cannibals, right? God calls us special. God calls Black, Hispanic, and Native American people holy unto him, and that we are above every other race of people on earth. Over the entire earth, God made Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to be better than and higher and higher compared to every other race on earth. All right? Let's jump to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 7, the next verse. It says, "The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people." If you go down the history and chronological order of how time and history unraveled, you'll see that the so-called Israelites, you'll see that the Israelites were like one of the youngest races of people to walk the earth, because you already had Edomites, you already had Moabites, Ammonites, you already had Hamites, which are other words, which are the biblical terms for Chinese and Japanese and different types of Africans and white people, right? You already had all these different races of people. So when we came on to the land, when Jacob was born and he had 12 sons, and those 12 sons had families that grew so big into tribes, we had the smallest population. because we weren't around. The Israelites weren't around in the beginning during the time of Adam, during the time of Abraham, during the time of Isaac. All right. And we're learning that God didn't choose us because we were the greatest, that we had the biggest population, but we were in fact, the population that had the least. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, our population was so small back in biblical times compared to all the other races of people on earth. Excuse me. Let's go to verse 8. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 8. For all the brothers and sisters that are checking in, I will post the attendance link right now. Give me 1 second. All right. I'm posting the attendance link right now. Right, the attendance link has been posted, okay? Okay. So let's move on. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 8. But because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So it's saying God didn't just choose us because he loved us because we had a great number of people, but because he made an oath. He made an oath to Abraham, right? And the Lord doesn't break his oaths. The Lord is a man of his word. The Lord is righteous in everything he says and everything he does. So if he says that he's going to make something happen and makes a promise, a covenant, an agreement, a testament, he's going to keep it. And he did that with our forefather Abraham, right? And now it's saying that the Lord brought us out of our first captivity, our first slavery, under hard bondage under the one of the pharaohs of Egypt that you can read about in Exodus, in the book of Exodus. And it was so bad during the time of our history in Egypt in Exodus that our children were being murdered, that our men and women were being forced in harsh labor, rigorous labor, unfair labor, right? And the Lord is the reason why we were able to flee Egypt, by utilizing Moses to get Pharaoh to let us go free, and by the Lord showing his miraculous powers for all the world to see, all the entire nation of the Hamites, the Egyptians at this time. Let's go to verse 9. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations, right? And the Lord is our God. He is the God that led our ancestors out of Egypt into the promised land, right? He keeps his covenants. He keeps his mercy. He's extremely faithful. And And all we have to do is love him. All we have to do is keep his commandments, like it says here. Let's go to verse 10. Let me see if there are any questions. All right. It says, Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 10. And repayeth them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hateth him. He will repay him to his face. So right here we're learning that now those who hate the Lord, those who don't want to obey his commandments, the Lord will end up basically destroying you. He will end up punishing you and repaying you back with his own hatred towards you for hating him, for not wanting to keep his law, statutes, and commandments. So if you are Black, Hispanic, and Native American and you choose not to obey God, if you choose to hate God, if you choose to go against what God says, God can only repay you back with your punishment, with your destruction. Let's go to verse 11. It says, Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 11. Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I command thee this day to do them. Right? So, if you don't want God to hate you, then you should keep his commandments. You should keep his statutes. And if you break his commandments and statutes, you need to understand and accept that there's going to be judgments that come with breaking his commandments. There are going to be judgments that come with breaking his statutes. And he commands us, God commands all Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to obey his commandments, to obey his statutes, or you're going to face the judgments, or you're going to face the punishments that come with breaking his statutes and breaking his commandments. But at the end of the day, God just wants you to obey them, to do them. He doesn't want you to break them. He wants you to keep them and do them for your entire life, to pass them on to your children and their children, and so on and so forth. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 12. Let me see if there are any questions. Again, if you have any questions, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, I know we just got kicked off of TikTok for controversial content. The devil is alive, you know. Just type them in right here, and that way we can get them answered. Any questions based on this topic of interracial marriage, okay, according to the Bible, type them in, let me know, I get them answered for you, all right? Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 12. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments, and keep and do them, that the Lord thy God shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy, which he sware unto thy fathers. So listen, since God made this covenant to our forefathers, since God made this covenant unto Abraham, which passed on to Isaac, which passed on to Jacob, which passes on to us, right? If we want God to honor and keep that, then we must fulfill our end of the bargain. We must be able to keep and uphold our part of this agreement that was made between our forefathers and our God. So we need to keep and do these commandments, these statutes, right? And let's find out why. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 13. And he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb and the fruit of thy land, thy corn and thy wine and thine oil, the increase of thy kin, and the flocks of thy sheep, and the land which he swore unto thy fathers to give. So if we just obey God, if we just held up our end of this treaty, our end of this agreement, our end of this covenant that God made with our forefathers, and we obeyed his laws, obeyed his statutes, obeyed his commandments, God said that he will love us. That God said that he will bless us. that he will multiply us. He will make us a great nation. He would give us beautiful sons and daughters and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and blacks and Hispanic and Native American, our population would just grow abundantly and grow. He said he will bless the fruit of thy womb. So all of our women, all black, Hispanic, and Native American women, your womb will be blessed. You'll be able to have an abundant amount of children, you know? He'll bless the fruit of thy land, thy corn and thy wine and thine oil. So everything, all the land that we had, it would just grow with an endless supply of food, of orchards and apples and corn and vegetables. Our animals, like our cows, our sheep, our goats, they will always continue to multiply. They will just increase and increase. Imagine growing up on a farm and every single year and all year round, there's just fruits and veggies growing. No crops being ruined. Imagine having cows and sheep and lambs and turkeys and chickens, all lawful things that we can eat, just growing in population. Imagine having horses that just keep having other horses and we can use them to travel all around the place, right? The Lord will bless us in all these things if we just kept our end of the bargain. If we just held up our end of the agreement that God made with our forefathers, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 14. It says, thou shalt be blessed above all people. There shall not be male or female barren among you or among your cattle. So God again is saying that if we just kept his statutes, his commandments, and his laws, that he will bless us above every other race of people on earth. We'll be more blessed than the blessings that Ishmael got. We'll be more blessed than the blessing that Esau got. We would rule the earth. We would have an endless supply of blessings, right? That our men and our women will always be able to reproduce. We won't have to worry about someone being sterile or someone being barren, right? Even our animals will always be able to continue to have kids and repopulate with more cows, with more sheep, with more goats, with more chickens, with more geese and turkey and horses. You know, whatever animal that you raise for business or for food that's lawful, of course, it would just grow. We will continue to have an endless supply of all the things the Lord blessed us for us keeping our end of the bargain, for us keeping our end of the agreement and the arrangement. All right, let me see if there's any questions. Okay, no questions so far. Now, I would like to go back to the beginning of Deuteronomy. Let's go to verse 3. So now we're going to get into the meat of it. I already broke down how blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are special to God. And that if God said that if we obeyed him, he would bless us. And if we disobeyed him, he would curse us. He would take these blessings away, right? So let me give you one law that God gave us. And this is how we segue and dive into the topic of interracial marriage, right? If we kept this law, we would be blessed as a nation. But unfortunately, black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women have disobeyed God, and we have broke this law, amongst other laws, of course. But this law, since it's in relevance to our class for today, we're going to be talking about this. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3. It says, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. Now, if you read the first verse and the second verse, you'll see that is mentioning certain races of people, tribes of Hamitic tribes, African tribes, let's just say, right? All these Hamitic tribes are being mentioned, right? that are in our land that we're going to, and God is saying what we should not do with them, right? He mentions the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hivites, right? And altogether 7 nations, right? God wants us not to have any interactions with them other than destroying them and kicking them off the land that God gave us, that God promised our forefathers. Now it's saying that we should not make any marriages with them. That means our men and our women should not be marrying, engaging interracial marriage with these other races of people, right? It says that our daughters should not be given unto their sons. It says that our sons should not take their daughters as wives. You know what I mean? Give me 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, Salakia. Right? So we should not be engaging in interracial marriages with any of our enemies, with any other races of people. We should only be engaging in marriages, in relationships with other Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. Okay? Let's keep going to verse 7. It says, "For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly." Right? So we're learning that we're learning in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 4, that by letting Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women marry people from other races, like white people or Arabs or Asians, right? God said that these other races of people will turn away thy son from following him. So if a Black man, Hispanic man, a Native American man marries a white woman, an Asian woman, an Arab woman, an African woman, a woman from Pakistan or India, right? Or Australia, that when we have children, that woman would make our children turn away from serving God. That woman will raise our kids or try to interfere with raising our kids and worshiping God. That they would try to get them not to worship God. They would try to get them to worship their own fake God, their fake beliefs, right? That if Black, Hispanic, or Native American women marry a white man, African man, Asian man, Arab man, right? Those kids will not follow you and your beliefs and your gods. They'll follow their father's beliefs and their gods, right? But according to the Bible, you are what your father is. So if you are a Black, Hispanic, or Native American woman, and you have kids with a white man, an Asian man, an Arab man, an African man, those are his kids. They're his people. They don't come from your race of people. So it doesn't really matter. You should just let them follow their father's beliefs. But if you are a Black, Hispanic, or Native American man and you marry another race, a woman from another race of people, you risk the chance. God says right here in Deuteronomy 7 and 4 that this Asian woman will turn your children away from serving God. That the Arab woman will turn your children away from serving God. That this white woman, the devil that the Bible speaks of, will turn away your children from following God. And it says, so will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you. And God's anger will be kindled against you. His anger will be focused and directed towards you because you did exactly what he told you not to do. God has told Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women to obey his laws, to obey his commandments, to obey his statutes, right? And that if we did it, he would bless us with abundance of everything. But if we didn't obey him, that we would be forced to bear witness to his punishment and his wrath, right? And that's exactly what's happening in today's day and age. Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, we constantly disobey God. We constantly don't want to do what God tells us to do, and we want to do what we think that is best for us instead of what God says is best for us. So by Black, Hispanic, or Native American man marrying and having sex with and engaging in interracial relationships with white, Asian, African, Arab women, etc., you're going against God. And when you have children, that woman is going to turn your children away from serving. And God is going to be extremely furious with you. And it says, and destroy thee suddenly. And God will destroy you. God would have the woman kick you out the house. God will have the woman divorce you and take your money. God will have the woman leave you and have you pay spousal support, like with Dr. Dre. You know, God would have that wicked woman put you on child support. God would raise those kids calling you a deadbeat dad and a nigger and a spick and a wetback and a savage and you're no good. And all Black people are like that. All Hispanic people are like that. Your child will grow up hating his own people because you decided to sleep with a woman that was never supposed to be amongst you in the first place. The mother of your children is white, Arab, or African, or Asian, and they will teach your kids to hate Black, Hispanic, and Native American people and love Asians, whites, Africans, and Arabs, and etc. Right? That's how God will destroy you. Let's keep scrolling. Let's drop that. Let me see if there are any questions. Any questions on this topic? Facebook, YouTube. We're back up on TikTok, which is good. All right, let's scroll down some more. Let's drop Deuteronomy, right? And let's go to the book of Nehemiah, the 13th chapter, the 23rd verse. I'll give you guys some time to get there. Nehemiah 13, verse 23. Nehemiah 13, verse 23. All right, hopefully we're all there. Hold on one second.
But somewhere along the line,
All right, we got banned again on TikTok for controversial topic. All right. Can you bring me some tissue, please? And a bottle of water?
What you need? Paper towel?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 23. It says, in those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. So Ashdod is a place in Israel I'm looking over here because we have a map of the Middle East, and we can look at Ashdod, right? There's a place in Israel right now that is now the homeland or the land where Jewish people live. People who call themselves Jewish, the water, and are not really Jews, right? Also known as white people. There's white people living in Ashdod right now, right? When it says Ammon and of Moab, it's talking about Asian people, Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, right? People from Thailand. It's talking about them. And now it's saying that there were Jews, right? The people that come from the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that married these people, that engage in relationships and took these strange women, these women of white and Asian descent, as wives. Verse 24. And it says, and their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. So look, we just read in Deuteronomy chapter 7, right? Verse 4, I believe, that when Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women engage in interracial relationships and marry people from other races, that they will turn our children, specifically the sons of Black, Hispanic, and Native American men, away from serving God. Now we're seeing that when the men, and the reason why we're talking about the men is, one, the men carry the seed. Men build a nation. Men give forth their sperm into a woman, and that child will always be whatever their father is. That's how a nation is built and how a nation continues to survive. You're not whatever the mother is. You are whatever the father is. The father has the life and the seed that is necessary to grow life in between his legs, and he puts it inside the woman that he's supposed to. Here, these men did not do what they were supposed to, because they married wives of Ashdod, they married wives of Ammon, and they married wives of Moab. So that's how it's talking about Black Hispanic, because only a man can marry, or only a man can have a wife, according to the Bible, right? So these men who married women of Ashdod, women of Ammon, women of Moab, their sons and their daughters grew up speaking the language of these races of people. They grew up speaking the language of the Ammonites, the language of the Moabites, the language of the people of Ashdod, right? And they could not speak the Jews' language. They could not speak the Lashon Kodash. They could not speak Hebrew, real Hebrew. It was all twisted. It's like, for instance, a Puerto Rican speaking Spanglish. It's not fully Spanish because it's mixed with English as well. So they call it Spanglish because they interfuse some words here and stuff like that. They're not speaking the pure Spanish from Spain, which, because their language is not Spanish, the language is supposed to be Hebrew, right? So it's something along the lines of just exactly what I just said, right? So these children who have Israelite fathers, who have Black, Hispanic, and Native American fathers, they could not speak the language of their fathers. They could only speak the language of their mothers, which were white women, which were Asian women, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Mongolian, right? And which is a big problem, because part of taking back your culture and your nationality is being able to speak your language, or learning how to speak your language correctly, right? And in order to read the Torah back in these days, you had to know Hebrew. You had to be able to speak and read in Hebrew. And if your children, if you were a Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, and you had children and they could not read their language, they would not be able to do what the Lord said to do in the book that was just meant for them. Let's go down to the next verse, verse 25. First, let me check if there's any questions. Any questions, type them in. Verse 25. And I contended with them and smote certain of them and plucked off their hair and made them swear by God, saying, Ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons. Right? Or for yourself. So here Nehemiah is saying that he had to fight and argue with these Black, Hispanic, and Native American men. He had to fight and argue with them, curse them, right? Even smoke them, put his hands on them, smack them up a bit, push them around, right? Beat them even. And he would pluck off their hair. He would pull their hair, grabbing them. He would end up ripping their hair out, right? And because out of frustration, out of anger, out of fear of what the Lord will do. Because Nehemiah was a man who kept the law. And he knew that God said that a Black, Hispanic, or Native American man, that you should not be engaging in any type of interracial marriage with a heathen, with a woman from a different race of people. You should not be engaging in marriage or relationships with white women or Asians or Africans or Arabs. None of that should be going on. And Nehemiah knew that. Nehemiah was angry that the other Black, Hispanic, and Native American men were disobeying God and going against God's laws, statutes, and commandments. So he did all these things and he made them swear by God. Swear by God. You know how in the world we grew up saying, oh, I swear to God this, oh, word to everything I love and word to God. And then you'll go and state whatever you think is, whatever you're saying, which could be a lie or the truth, right? So Nehemiah made them swear by God that ye should not give your daughters unto their sons, that these Black, Hispanic, and Native American men, if they have a daughter, not to allow their daughters to marry the sons of white people, of Asians, right? Nor take their daughters unto your sons. And he made them swear that if these Black, Hispanic, or Native American men had sons, that you will not allow your son, to marry a white woman, to not allow your son to marry an Asian woman. What you were saying?
You need a reader?
Yes, if you don't mind. You want to bring a chair? Right? That you should not be allowing your sons or your daughters to marry any child of another race of people. You cannot marry white people. You cannot marry Asians. You cannot marry Africans. You cannot marry Arabs. You can't marry any other person from any other race of people if they're not Black, Hispanic, or Native American. That's just something that God does not want you to do. That he said time and time again that you shall not do. All right? No questions yet? Okay. Let's try TikTok again. Let's see if we can get back on. About someone reporting us. Right? So according to Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 25, the prophet Nehemiah was extremely upset, furious, angered, livid, and fearful of what God was going to do. Because Black, Hispanic, and Native American men at this time, and other times as well, disobeyed God and married women from other races of people that they should not have. So he made us swear not to allow our daughters to marry the sons of other races of people. And he made us swear not to allow our daughters He made us swear not to allow our daughters to marry the sons of other races of people, and that our sons they cannot marry the daughters of other races of people, and that we should not marry the women of other races of people. Right? We're on Nehemiah chapter 13. Right now we're going to we're on verse 25. We're going to go to verse 26. Can you read verse 26 for me, please?
Can, sir. Nehemiah 13 and 26. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his power, and the Most High made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin.
So Nehemiah brings up a good point, brings up a reference point, right? Because according to, I believe it's Romans 14 and 3.
Which one?
As whatever was written aforetime was written for learning.
15.
15? Romans 15, right?
Yeah, count 15.
Romans, the 15th chapter, where it states, I'm paraphrasing, of course, that whatever is written in the Bible, whatever was written in the past, was written for us to learn today, was written for us to use and utilize and put into practice today. So here, during the time of Nehemiah, he's referencing King Solomon, right? It says that there was no king like King Solomon. Even the other nations, even the other races of people never had a king like King Solomon. And King Solomon was extremely rich, was the most wisest man walking on earth. No one wiser than King Solomon, right? But he's referencing King Solomon and says, didn't King Solomon, the wisest man on earth, the man that was so loved by God, there has been no other, didn't he sin by doing this same exact thing? Because if you read about King Solomon, we'll get there in 1 Kings. King Solomon, when he got older, he ended up marrying, well, as he aged, and then when he got older, he ended up having wives. At least 1,000 women in his life, right? And many of those women were heathens. Many of those women were women who were African, were whites, were Asian, were Arabs. They were not women who are Black, Hispanic, and Native American. These were women that from races of people, the same races of people that God told us not to get involved with sexually or in terms of love and marriage, right? So the greatest man on earth at this time, the greatest king, King Solomon, he sinned. He committed the same exact sin that we're learning about in the book of Nehemiah, right? Because King Solomon married outlandish women, and these women caused him to sin. Can you hold where you're at? And can you go to the book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, and we're going to go to verse 3. All right? So for everyone watching, I want you all to hold where you're at in Nehemiah, and then go to 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 3. All right? We'll give you a few moments to get there. Got it up?
Come.
Can you read, please?
1 Kings 11 and 3. And he had 700 wives.
Solomon had 700 wives.
Princesses.
Who were princesses.
And 300 concubines.
And he also had 300 concubines.
And his wives turned away his heart.
Now, some of these women were heathens, right? And we're going to find out why.
4.
Hold on.
Oh,
go to verse 1.
Verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women.
What did King Solomon love?
Many strange women.
It's saying that King Solomon loved many strange women. And the reason why it's saying strange women is because if you're not a Black, Hispanic, or Native American woman, you are strange onto Black, Hispanic, and Native American men, right? King Solomon loved strange women. Strange women are white women. White women are strange women. Asian women are strange women. Arab women are strange women. African women are strange women. And according to the Bible, not me, this is not my opinion. You may think that this is a controversial content or controversial topic, but if you open the Bible, we're just talking about what the Bible states. And the Bible calls strange women to be a specific group of people, and we're going to read about what it says here. Keep going.
Together with the daughter of Pharaoh.
It's saying that the daughter of Pharaoh was a strange woman. Now we know Pharaoh was an Egyptian.
Right.
And Egyptians, according to the Bible, are people from a Hamitic tribe. In today's day and age, we would call them Africans. So God is saying that the daughter of Pharaoh, who is an African, is a strange woman. This is not me saying it. It's not me trying to be controversial. It's saying it right here that the daughter of Pharaoh, who was an Egyptian, and Egypt is in Africa, and Egyptians are Africans. It's saying that this woman, this daughter, is a strange woman. Keep going.
Women of the Moabites.
The Moabites.
Ammonites.
If you read about the Moabites and the Ammonites and where they come from Lot sleeping with his two daughters, having incest, having sex with his two daughters, right? One of the first instances of incest we read about. And what happens with incest? What's a great possibility with when a brother and sister sleep with each other? When a son sleeps with his mom, when a father sleeps with his daughter and they have children, the children may come out looking like may come out having Down syndrome, scientific fact, may come out looking like they have Down syndrome, scientific fact. Now, if you go look up the features of Down syndrome, you can see how the eyes are shaped differently, that the face is kind of flattened, that there might be some psychological or mental health issues with the child because of incest. Moabites and Ammonites are the two tribes of people that create the Asian race. And the reason why you know is because Asians have a specific facial feature. If you go look up the word Mongolian and break down the root word, which is mongrel, you'll see that it states that it has something to do with Down syndrome or Down syndrome features. This is not me stating my own opinion. If you just open up your Google machine and type it in, you'll see see that I'm not lying, and you'll be able to make the correlations. Moabites and Ammonites are the Asian people. Chinese, Japanese, Taiwanese, Korean, Mongolians, right? These people look like they have the physical features of a person who has Down syndrome. Keep going. Edomites are what white people are called biblically in the Bible. White people today, your name according to the Bible is Edomites. You descend from the person named Esau, right? So it's calling Asian people strange women. Women who come from Asia, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, it calls them strange women. Edomites, who are white people today, is calling white women strange women. Keep going.
Zidonians.
I believe that's Persians. No, Zidon,
like Hamites.
The more Africans, right?
Kind.
So Zidonians and the Hittites, African people,
right?
The other tribes of the race of Hamites, of Africans, it's calling their women strange women. So the Bible just said that white women are strange women to Black, Hispanic, and Native American men. That Asian women are strange women to Black, Hispanic, and Native American men. That African women are strange women to Black, Hispanic, and Native American men. And King Solomon was a Black, Hispanic, and Native American man. He was from the 12 tribes of Israel. And he loved these strange women, just like so many Black, Hispanic, and Native American men love today. Many Native American men love strange women. They love white women. They love Asian women. They love African women and Arab women. We love all types of women except for our own. And this is where I bring in Kanye West, the celebrity Kanye West. Before, right? I talk about Kanye West, I just want to play a little clip from something that I got from YouTube, right? That I'm pretty sure you all can relate to because you probably heard it in one of his most popular songs, right? Gold Digger. So we're gonna watch this right here on TikTok. And if you are on Facebook or YouTube, you can also look this up as well. Ready?
What affects your comments about President Nixon?
Whoa. We're not here to talk about that right now. I just want to focus on this jump right now. You want to focus on...
And right now, Kanye West is being interviewed by a white man. And now he has two black women, or what appears to be black women, they're supposed to be playing black women in this skit, interrupt his interview with this white man.
All right, Nick, you want to focus on this. Do you know who I am? This is why we couldn't never work out, Nia. I know who I am. I know. I said your name. I know who you are. Nia, get it, Nick. That's right, girl.
Now, what we're seeing here is the media is showing how violent black relationships are between each other, right? And Kanye West is saying, well, this is the reason why I left you, blah, 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 blah. But this is what actually happens.
I told you, when he get on, he gonna leave your ass for a white girl. What you want, a Barbie? What about all of this? You just want some... What about the ass?
And this is extremely true, right? Because Kanye West did exactly what he said would happen in his Gold Digger video. When Kanye West got on, he left black women and he left Hispanic women and got with a white woman. Kim Kardashian. It's so crazy that we don't even really know what race of people she is, because the Armenians, during the course of history, you had that people of that land being ruled by Persians, being ruled by Medes, being ruled by the Ottoman Turks, being ruled by the Greeks who are white, the Romans who are white, the Holy Roman Catholic Church sending the Crusaders over there who are white. So you don't even know what her real identity is. For all intents and purposes, she could just be a Greek baby, a white baby.
Right.
She could be just a descendant of Romans who are white people. Right? So when Kanye West got on, he left black women behind. He left Hispanic women behind, and he got with a white girl. Like the song says, when he gets on, he'll leave your ass for a white girl. And that's exactly what Kanye West did. That's exactly what Kobe Bryant did, right? Having all these sexual affairs and scandals with white women, right? That's what Tiger Woods did. The greatest black golfer, having all these sexual relationships with white women, marrying white strippers, getting beat over the head by a white woman who he married because he was sleeping around with other white women. This is what happens when black, Hispanic, and Native American men feel like they reach some type of success or some level of success. They want to go and marry the descendants of their oppressors, of their slave masters. White people had us in slavery in numerous instances in history. Africans had us in slavery. Arabs had us in slavery. Even the Asians had blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in slavery. Now, I want to read an article, right? I want to read a few articles that I got that correlate with what we're talking about and learning here. Where is it? Okay. This is from RFT, Riverfront Times, right? It's based out in St. Louis. And the title of this article is called Ask a Mexican, Why Do Mexican Men Marry White Women? Now it says, Dear Mexican, I have always wondered why high-achieving Mexican American men tend to date/marry white women. I have noticed that since I was an undergraduate, now working in academia, most of the Chicano professors are married to white women. What an oxymoron. Also, it seems that the more power a Mexican American man has, whether it's in academia or politics, the more likely he is to marry a white woman. What is this phenomenon about? Are educated Latinas threatening to high achieving Chicanos? Are we too complex? What gives? I know this is a rather sensitive matter, and no one seems to want to talk. What is your take on the issue? And it's talking about, and this is from a Mexican Chicana woman, a Latin woman,
Right.
from San Antonio. Now someone replies and says, your assumption is correct. And they cite 2012 Pew Research Center. Now Pew Research Center is a very reputable research center. They do a lot of statistics and surveys and research on many topics and many things. You can always go look them up. It says that a 2012 Pew Research Center study on interracial marriages in Los Estados Unidos, the United States, put it thusly: for newly married Hispanic men and women, marrying a white person is associated with a college education. So they're saying that Mexican men and women who go on to receive a higher education, and we know that college is an institute of higher education. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans were banned from receiving higher levels of education. Were banned from going to colleges, right? So it's looked as from the jump that going to college is something of great accomplishment, of great achievement. It's like a great milestone, right? If anything, you smarty art Chicanas marry gabachos, talking about white men, at a higher rate than smarty art Mexicans. Nearly 33% of Mexicanas who marry a gabacho are college educated. So it's saying 30% of Mexican women who marry white men are college educated. So when Black, Hispanic, and Native American women go to college, they feel like they're better,
Right.
than Black, Hispanic, and Native American men who did not go to college. So therefore, they have to marry those who did go to college. And the people who flood colleges traditionally are white people.
Right.
I know when I first went to college at 18, before I dropped out, I went to an extremely expensive private school, and there was majority white women there. Rarely any Hispanic women, rarely any Black women, a lot of Asians, a lot of East Indians, but majority were white women. And guess what? Not growing up in this truth, I looked at white women as something that I want and desired because they were available, which it says it in this article.
Right.
Compared with 23% of scholarly Mexican men who marry white women. The Pew people didn't get into why of the matter, but I'd argue it's because of the scandalously low amount of Latinos in college co-eds tend to get with what's around, you know? So college co-eds, college students tend to get with women or men that are around. So me being a Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, going to college, and college is seen as something of a great milestone. It's difficult to get into. It's flooded with white people. I'm more likely to want to get involved sexually, romantically with a white woman because that's what's available. That's what is around. Because Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women traditionally have an extremely low acceptance rate into college. It's difficult to pay for college. If it wasn't for public colleges and city universities and state universities, many of us still wouldn't go to college because of how expensive it is. Right? So when that song says, and when he gets on, he leaves your ass for a white girl, it's true.
Right.
You can take a look at all these athletes who end up marrying and getting with a white woman. Go ahead, Abadia.
They I'm pretty sure I think it's the NFL is suing United Airlines. I'll send you the link. Is suing United Airlines because they would purposefully fill their plane with nothing but flight attendants. Like, I saw that and it showed me like you can really make a picture. It may not. Well, these brothers, you should know better not to deal with a goddamn white woman or that this is a plan. But it may also be a point of like brothers and sisters in the college, we're put away from our people and put only in a box with our enemies. So it's like, why not? Because I'm surrounded by nothing but white women 24/7. A white woman's going to be doing the interview for and for what is it? ESPN. What's called a white woman's gonna be asking me if I want something backstage. A white woman is probably my accountant. A white woman's probably my PR rep, my lawyer. I'm going to see these people. Eventually, if you're not in this truth, you might get the mindset that white is right.
Correct. Right? Because when I first went to college at 18, I was surrounded by almost nothing but white people.
Right.
I was attracted to white women.
Right.
I allowed myself to fail and drop out of college because of a relationship with a white woman. When I finally found this truth, when I accepted who I was, when I started to learn more about my father's people, and the Lord allowed me to go back to school and to dominate everyone that was in my school and be on top of everything and everyone in my school. I went to school here in the city, a private university here in the city. Yes, there were a lot of white women, but I was glad that I still lived or moved back to the hood. Because when I left school, I came back into my neighborhood where I saw black women,
right,
Hispanic women,
right,
Native American women. I wasn't surrounded by Asian and white women and African women, right? And also I knew better at that time. I knew better. I knew that God said not to get involved with women from other races of people.
Right.
So that allowed me to succeed and not fall into that same trap that you just stated with the NFL. Right. Because you got all these brothers on a plane,
right,
staring at white women all day in hot and mini skirts.
Right.
Probably with their breasts showing and everything, right?
Right.
It's a trap. Let's keep going. It says, all this said, Chula, all Mexican men want a gabachita at some point in their lives, regardless of class. Witness the shout-outs given to the wetbacks who nailed American women in Los Alegres de Terans, El Codrillo de los Mojados, and El Mojado Acudalado by Los Tigres del Norte. Your humble Mexican can boast of Mick and a Yit in his past. Nothing against you fine-ass Chicanas, but dating a white woman is the ultimate status symbol for hombres. Not so much for the prestige, but so that we can get our share of the romance. So it's like a status symbol, which makes you know that when Black, Hispanic, and Native American men date a white woman, it's a status symbol. It's like, look, nigga, we made it. I got money, I got wealth, and now I have a white woman to show everyone that I made it in life.
But if I may, sir.
Go ahead.
Like they said, it's not even for prestige, it's for romance. Like, so it's not like it's not on the way of, look, I got this white woman, I'm so great. I got this white woman and she loves me. She gives me a special type of love. Which would mean what? If you have to go to the white woman for it, you're saying that you can't get it from a Chicana.
Correct. Which is saying that being with a Black, Hispanic, or Native American woman,
right,
is not the ultimate status.
It's not.
It means nothing. Being with a Black woman, right, is nothing. Being with a Hispanic woman, is nothing. Being with a Native American woman, is nothing. But being with a white woman who has shiny blonde hair that shines in the sun, Being with a white woman that has green eyes and blue eyes. Being with a white woman with all that white skin that looks nice. That's something to be proud of, which is disgusting because I don't sleep with dogs.
Right.
And that's what white women are to me, dogs.
Right.
I don't even like Black, Hispanic, or Native American women who dye their hair blonde. I don't even like Black, Hispanic, or Native American women who put blue contacts on, who put green eye contacts in, who put gray contacts in, who want to bleach their skin, who think it's better to be as light-skinned as possible. I think that's disgusting. Why would you want to be like the same people who raped your mother in slavery, who sodomized your father in slavery, who used to hang little babies from trees and feed them to alligators during slavery, and feed them to dogs in slavery, and bash Native American babies against trees and rocks and throw them over cliffs? Why would you want to be with someone who's from a race of people that did that, who did those horrific things to your people? Right? So let's drop that. Drop this article. And we're going to go into another article. Well, let me see if there's any questions online. No questions on Facebook. No questions on YouTube. No questions on TikTok. Okay. Let's go on to this other article. This is from the Hollywood Reporter, right? Now, I'm pretty sure many of us may be familiar with this because we saw this in the news about Terrence Howard. The actor from Hustle and Flow, whoop that trick. The actor that played in the original Iron Man movie, he was the original War Machine before they recast him from Don Cheadle, right? The actor who played in the movie Crash.
He played Jackie Jackson.
Yep, Jackie Jackson. It says Terrence Howard accuses his estranged wife of calling him racial slurs. Now, his ex-wife was Asian. Was Asian. She was Asian, right? Excuse me. It says here. What?
If I may, sir, it's funny because you're familiar with the movie Holiday or something. It's him, Taye Diggs. Yeah, it's like the 4 black men that every black woman wants to get with, and they're all in a movie together. I think it's The Holidays or The 4 Brothers or something like that. Like every last one of those brothers, devil, some type of heathen. They married to either a devil or, in his case, he married to an Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah, John.
So it says, the Oscar-nominated actor files new court documents claiming Michelle Howard called him a nigger and a monkey 2 weeks after she obtained a restraining order against him alleging physical abuse. Right? It says, 2 weeks after Michelle Howard obtained a restraining order against the Oscar-nominated actor, claiming he repeatedly threatened and hit her during their marriage, he is alleging in court documents that racial slurs like nigger, right? It says, according to TMZ, Terrence Howard claims in a new declaration filed in LA County Superior Court, when Michelle Howard, who is not black, became upset, she made statements such as, I never wanted to marry a nigger in the first place. And I definitely didn't want to be the stepmom of some nigger kids. He also says she was once a loving, gentle person who changed throughout the course of their marriage and once threatened to have him killed by her Russian friends. The actor also claims she attacked him with a bottle twice after accusing him of talking to other women. Listen, I believe every word of this. Because again, whenever a black, Hispanic, or Native American man marries a woman from another race of people, the people hate you.
Right.
According to Psalms 83, they all conspired against us. They all did whatever they could to destroy black, Hispanic, and Native American people. Hold on. So when you marry them, you're basically putting yourself closer to death. Putting yourself closer to your enemy, putting yourself closer to the same people that hate you. And here's another example. This is from Essence Magazine. It says, intimacy intervention. My husband uses racial slurs during sex. A newlywed whose white husband calls her the N-word during sex feels disgusted, betrayed, and ashamed, and isn't sure how to make it stop. Well, you should feel disgusted, because if you're a black woman, the last thing you should be doing is falling in love and marrying a white man who used to rape you and your ancestors, who sold you and your ancestors, right? Who created Jim Crow laws, who said that you were 3/5 of a man, who said you couldn't vote, who treated you less than animals, who enslaved your entire race of people. Oh, got cut off again. For controversial topic. Wow. Right? And you should feel betrayed. You should feel like you betrayed your people, because you married a man from a race of people that hates you, and you should feel ashamed because you betrayed your people and you lined yourself up with the enemy, and now the enemy is treating you like he did biblically, like he has done historically. It says, my man keeps calling me a nigger bitch during sex, and I hate it. I have been married for a year, and I am at my wit's end. My investment banker husband is from a white old money family. That means, more likely, he's a racist. More than likely, his family owned slaves. More than likely, his family raped black women and Hispanic women and Native American women, and raped black men and Hispanic men and Native American men, treated them like cattle, killed them, slaughtered them, did whatever they want. That's old money, right? I am a first-generation black American woman whose family is from the islands of Jamaica. Now, the people in the islands in the Caribbean, they had it a lot worse than the people here in the United States. Slavery over there was worse. We met at a reunion for Ivy League school. We both attended. See, another there goes another that correlates with the whole Mexican article. It's such a great achievement to go to college.
Right.
And if 33% of Mexican women and 23% of Mexican men who go to college and marry white women, this black woman went to an Ivy League school. Who's at Ivy League schools? Traditionally white people. So she met him at an Ivy League school reunion, right? It says, we have the picture perfect fantasy. He wines and dines me, and we travel and shop the globe. Let me get that scripture if you can. Hold what you have here. A gift that destroys the heart. Baba Kasha, if you can. Right? She says, we have the perfect picture fantasy life, except for the fact that he calls you, no more kings. Except for the fact that he calls you nigger bitch. You have a perfect fantasy life, except for when he uses derogatory slurs while having sex with you, right, while putting you in all types of sexual positions, and you doing it willingly, because back then his family from old money used to force their slave women and their slave men into get into sexual positions and rape them. You, a black woman from Jamaica, you're doing it willingly, freely, getting into all types of sexual positions and letting him have sex with you. Okay. And then you say he wines and dines me, and we travel and shop the globe. Read that scripture out.
Ecclesiastes 7:7.
Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7.
Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad.
Oppression makes a wise man mad, because as we're reading this article, as we read history, as we watch television, as you're watching this class right now, Black, Hispanic, and Native American men who understand what their people are going through and see the oppression that their people go through, you should be mad. I'm mad reading this article that a beautiful black princess is being called a nigger bitch by a white man.
That's right.
I'm also upset that this beautiful black princess married a white woman. Married a white man. I'm also upset that this beautiful black princess did not learn from the history of slavery in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, and how brutal and disgusting and horrendous white people treated black people and Native Indians in the islands of Jamaica, in the Caribbean. And you still married a white man who comes from old money. Do you not know what that means? That means he comes from a lineage of slave owners and people who made money off of slave labor, free labor. Excuse me. But you call that a perfect fantasy life. Keep reading.
Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart.
He wines and dines me. Read that again.
A gift destroyeth the heart.
We travel the globe.
A gift destroyeth the heart.
And shop the globe.
A gift destroyeth the heart.
This white man wines and dines her, takes her all across the world, buys her all these things across the world, which she probably would have never been able to do if she not have gone to Ivy League school, being a Jamaican woman, not coming from old money, not coming from money at all. A gift destroys the heart. He did all these things and she fell for him because for once in her life, she's with a man that can pay for her to eat every day.
Right.
Take out to drink every day.
Right.
Put her on a boat and a plane and sail and fly across the world. Buy her everything she ever wants and sees. A gift destroys the heart. And you know what's worse? Abadia, you know what's worse, everyone watching online?
Concept.
She says, unlike all of the black men I dated in the past. She's basically saying all the black men she dated in the past, you ain't shit.
Right.
You're broke. You don't come from money. You weren't able to wine and dine her. You weren't able to have her travel and shop around the globe. That you're good for nothing. You're useless. But this white man, he's everything because he can wine and dine her. He can have her travel around the earth. He can buy her whatever she wants. But you black niggas, y'all broke ass bums. She says her husband is generous. That means all the black men in her life were not generous. She said, my husband is loyal. That means all the other black men in her life were not loyal. They weren't committed. They weren't considerate. But listen, black, Hispanic, and Native American men can have more than one woman. The black, Hispanic, and Native American men, the way we are loyal to our women is never leaving her.
Right.
The way we are committed to our women is never leaving her, even when times get rough. That's how we display loyalty. That's how we display commitment. But this white man only believes in having one wife. This white man puts her feelings and how she feels before anything else. This white man can take her shopping all across the world, can fly her all across the world, can take her out to eat to the expensive restaurants, right? But us black men, we ain't shit because we couldn't do any of that. He courted me and I never have to pay for anything. He said I can quit my job, and I did. He makes me feel like a woman. She says he makes her feel like a woman, but he calls you a nigger bitch during sex. And you stated, this woman, whoever she is, I feel disgusted. I feel betrayed, and I feel ashamed. And I don't know how to make it stop. Because he calls me a nigger bitch during sex. But she also says he makes me feel like a woman. Let me get that scripture, double-minded man is unstable. Actually, I'll just paraphrase it. The scripture says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. A person that can't focus, that can't stay on one thing, who says one thing and does the other, who thinks one thing and does something else. A double-minded man is unstable. This woman is an unstable woman. Because on one hand, she says she lives a perfect life, the perfect fantasy life that every black girl dreams of. Marrying a white man, having him take care of everything, and you not having to do nothing. But then on the other hand, he calls you a nigga bitch. He wines and dines you and and you travel all over the world with this white man. And black men could never do that for you. But you feel betrayed, ashamed, and disgusted when he calls you a nigger bitch, when he has you bent over, having sex with you from behind. You are an unstable woman. You are a double-minded woman, right? I am a little embarrassed to share our problems. The first time he let the N-word drop was during sex on our honeymoon. When I reacted negatively, he explained that a black woman he dated in the past enjoyed being called racial slurs. Another time he joked that he had purchased my freedom. Do you hear this? He joked and said he purchased her freedom. Well, in a way he did. Because he wined and dined her, flew her all across the world, and took her out of the oppression that other black, Hispanic, and Native American people go through every day. She's no longer have to suffer the oppression that we go through in the hood, in the slums, in the shanty towns, right? She no longer has to go through that oppression and the slavery having to work for a white man. But now she's married to a white man, and he does whatever he wants with her. Want to say something?
I was like, now she don't got to deal with the hood. She do got to deal with nigger bitch.
Yep. She ain't got to deal with coming from wherever she came from in Jamaica.
Right, Kingston.
But now she has to be with the master, and the master calls her nigger bitch, and she has to deal with it.
Right.
He also speculated about whether his family could have owned mine because I have good hair, saying that my family probably could have owned your family and raped your family because you have good hair and black people don't have good hair. That means there had to be some white men fucking black women for you to have such good hair. Then he made jokes about my pubic hair. He called it my Negro bush and referred to himself as a nigger lover. He says I am being overly sensitive because he loves me to death and should get a black pass for marrying me. This is absolutely disgusting. This woman should feel shameful, should feel embarrassed and disgusted for marrying such a diabolical beast, for marrying a man that comes from a race of people that tortured, murdered, raped, and brutalized your people, right? It says here, I want to go back to the scriptures. It says, let me get Joel chapter 3, verse 3. Joel chapter 3, verse 3, right? Let me know when you got it, brother. Joel chapter 3, verse 3. You got it?
Yeah. Joel 3 and 3. And they have cast lots for my people.
They have placed bids at auction blocks to buy black, Hispanic, and Native American people. This is what happened during slavery, during the Spanish conquest of the North America, South America, the Caribbean, right? During the transatlantic slave trade. Keep going.
And have given a boy for an harlot.
They made boys into harlots, into prostitutes. Keep going.
And a girl sold a girl for wine.
They did exactly what it says here. What did they do to a girl?
Sold a girl for wine.
This woman, this black woman being talked about in this article, she sold herself for wine.
He wined and dined her.
Exactly. It says he wined and dined her. She sold her ass and vagina for food, wine, traveling around the world, and shopping for anything she wants.
Right.
She sold her ass basically. Because now he treats her as a nigger bitch.
Right.
and that he is a nigger lover. And she should thank this white husband of hers because he purchased her freedom. This is what's wrong with Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women. We think that we go to Ivy League schools and colleges. We think that we get a couple of millions. We have a successful business. We get signed as professional athletes.
Right.
We marry our oppressors. We get involved with our oppressors.
Right.
And we leave the Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women of our own people behind. And we go and join ourselves onto slave masters, onto slave hunters, right? Like this woman in this article. Excuse me. Drop that, right? And go. But let's go back to Nehemiah. You still got it?
Yeah, God. 26, right?
26.
Con, from the top.
Yes.
Nehemiah 13 and 26. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his power, and the Most High made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin.
King Solomon married heathen women,
Right.
which was a sin.
Right.
And these women, these strange women, these outlandish women, they caused King Solomon to commit sins. Keep going.
John, verse 27. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our power in marrying strange wives?
So Nehemiah is saying to these brothers, like I'm saying to all you Black, Hispanic, and Native American men watching right now, shall we then hearken on to these men who loved white women, who love African women, who love Asian women and Arab women? Should we listen to them? Should we do what they do and commit a great evil? Should we transgress against our God? Should we disobey God?
Right.
And marry these strange wives? Marry these strange women? Keep going.
John 28 and
Sorry, and the question is no. Sorry, the answer is no. We should not commit this great evil. We should not be marrying white women, Asian women, African women, Arab women, East Indian women, Aboriginal women, Polynesian women, whatever. If you're not Black, Hispanic, or Native American, I don't want to even mess with you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want your number. I don't want to be friends with you. I only want to be with Black, Hispanic, and Native American women. They're my women. They belong to me. They belong to all Black, Hispanic, and Native American men only. And God told us not to be with other women. Keep going.
28. And one of the sons of Jehoiada, the son of Eliashib, the high priest, was son-in-law to Sanballat, the Horonite. Therefore I chased him from me.
Now here, this is a sellout. We're talking about a sellout. Jehoiada was a sellout.
Right.
He was a son of a high priest, and he married a heathen woman. He married a heathen woman.
Right.
Now, when Nehemiah was saying all this stuff, was getting mad because our ancestors, the men of our ancestors, were falling in love and having sex with all these strange women, this sellout was trying to stop Nehemiah. Listen, Nehemiah, chill out.
Right.
Nehemiah wasn't having that, so he chased him away. He chased the sellout away from him. Keep going.
29, year 29, remember them, all my power, because I have defiled the priesthood and the covenant of the priesthood and of the Levites. 30, thus cleansed I them from all strangers.
Stop. Right? We need to remember the laws of God. Black, Hispanic, and Native American men need to remember the law, statute, and commandments of God. And we need to remember that if we break these laws, statutes, and commandments, that there's punishments for them.
Right.
Right? So here Nehemiah cleansed everyone from the strangers.
Right.
He forced them to get divorced. He forced them to separate from their wives. Right? Moses, on the other hand, back in I believe Deuteronomy or Numbers, he was killing Black, Hispanic, and Native American men who married Midianitish women. who married women from another race of people.
Right.
I believe it was something along the lines of 3,000 men were killed because they married women from other races of people. Here, to me, Nehemiah took it soft on us.
Right.
Told us to separate from them.
Right.
Moses would have had us killed like he did back then.
Right.
Right? I want to go into another article, right? It says, this is from Univision, right? Univision News. The article was entitled, Dear Wax. This Hispanic family found a racist letter on their front door. This was written by Maria Sanchez Diaz in 2018. It says a Mexican family in Fullerton, California said they received a letter complaining about their music, which also called them spics and wetbacks and made references to Trump's wall. So let's see what this white person, right, wrote. It says, on Tuesday, December 19th, when Lucia and her 3 children were leaving home to head to school, her middle child, Guillermo, noticed a note on the front door. Lucia thought it might be from some of the children in the building who are friends with her kids, but the 10-year-old warned her, it's kind of ugly, mommy. This is what the letter says. Dear wetbacks, 23 of you. So he's saying to the wetbacks, to the Mexicans, 23 of them that are living in that apartment. Right? This is your neighbor, 615. No one likes your loud ass wetback music, okay? You want to play that loud? Go back to where you belong, okay? Mexico. You are in America, so act like it. We want to build a wall to keep nasty ass spics like you out. You can't read this? So suck my dick. This is what this neighbor, this white person wrote to a family of Mexicans, insulting them, using racial slurs. Now, let's say that this woman, Lucia, her sons and her daughters go to college.
Right.
They go to Ivy League schools.
Right.
This mother might tell them, don't worry, not all white people are like this. Don't worry, mija. Don't worry, mijo. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it.
Right.
They end up going and marrying white men, white women. Because when they go to college, the majority of the people they're going to see are white men and white women. And then like Terrence Howard, your wife is going to call you a nigger and a monkey. Then like this black woman, your husband is going to call you a nigger bitch or a wetback bitch or a spick Hispanic woman while he's railing you from behind. Right? Let's go to another article. It says, New York Times. This is from the New York Times. It says, for interracial couples, advocacy is a love language. Having tough conversations about racism, police brutality, and current events aren't an option for Black and white couples. They're essential. This was written on July 2nd, 2020, this year, 2 months ago. In recent months, people all over the world have taken to social media and to the streets to reject police brutality and injustice towards Black people. Protests have erupted in the United States, driven by recent deaths of Black people, including the death of George Floyd, Amir Arbery, Breonna Taylor. While tough conversations with the intent to inform and provoke change might be new among friends and colleagues, they are not foreign to interracial romantic relationships, where support and advocacy aren't just bonuses, they are imperative. It's important to have someone who is enthusiastically listening to and supporting you, and that you're not always having to be in an educational kind of mode, right? This is coming from Bill Schaefer, a 29-year-old who's a Black man, and it's about him and his wife, right? They actively discuss racism and both the systematic and blatant effects it has had on Mr. Schaefer, who is Black. His wife, Jenny, is white. right? It says, Mr. Schaefer, a black man, gives this specific account. There was a specific incident when we were in Vancouver and someone made a comment to me and I was just so totally caught off guard. White people in Canada are racist too. Yeah. They hate black people and call us niggers. They hate Hispanic people and call us spicks and wetbacks. They hate Native Americans and call us redskin savages and cannibals, right? It says, and she didn't say anything. His white wife didn't say anything. Not because she was agreeing with him, but because she was also very shocked, right? The incident caused some strain on their relationship and simultaneously made Mrs. Ruby feel bad, resulting in a well-received discussion and immediate change. She says, I have never directly experienced an act of racism and did not know what the appropriate response was. I let him down by not speaking up and supporting him when it was important. My lack of action spoke for itself and at the cost of my partner's hurt. Well, let me tell you what. White people, there's not one person on earth that can relate to 500 years of slavery, rape, torture, slaughter, thievery, identity theft than Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. Not one white person can relate to that. Not one white person can relate to white people being murdered on the streets by cops, by black cops. Because Black, Hispanic, and Native American people get murdered every day by white people and police. They cannot relate to being forced off their land and slaughtered and living in reservations and being addicted to alcohol like Native Americans. White people cannot relate to being told to speak English. This is America, and if you don't like it, go back to Mexico, like Spanish people, Hispanic people. They cannot relate to Black people hating themselves and wanting to be lighter than other Black people because white people, they're white. They don't have to worry about stuff like that. Your oppressor, your slave master, can never relate to the pain and struggle that you go through. Black, Hispanic, and Native American people can only relate to the pain and struggle of other Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. White people will never be able to relate. So why would you want to date a white man or a white woman who's not going to know how to respond when another white man or woman calls you a nigger or a spick, calls you a wetback or a redskin savage, hears you talking Spanish to your Mexican mom and tells you to speak English,
right,
or go back home. No one's telling white people, hey, stop speaking Swedish.
Right.
Hey, stop speaking French.
Romanian.
Hey, stop speaking Romanian and whatever language Yugoslavians speak.
Right.
Stop speaking Norwegian. Stop speaking Norwegian.
Sir, right.
If you don't like it, go back to Norway.
Right.
Go back to Iceland.
Georgia.
Go back to the steppes of Russia. No one's telling white people that.
Right.
But white people are telling you that.
Right. John, sir.
It is impossible for white people to relate to the struggles of Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. Therefore, Black, Hispanic, and Native American people should never date and marry and have kids with white people, with Asian people, with Africans or Arabs. You want to say something else?
No, I was going to say, this brother, being with a white woman completely destroys you, and it shows in this brother because it's like, I don't need anybody to be there for me to get defense from some racist ass devil. Especially if my woman, I don't know about you, I don't want my woman, regardless of what race she is, to defend me. But it shows you think
exactly.
That's the
my Black, Hispanic, and Native American woman should never have to open her mouth in defense of me.
Right.
I'm the man. That's what I do. I defend.
Right. But he sees, obviously, that's the image of white Jesus that he's having sex
The
with.
protector and savior.
Right. So she's up on a pedestal and you've got to save me.
Right. And guess what? She didn't know how to respond.
Right.
All right. Let's get this last scripture.
Come, sir.
Let's go to let's go to Ezra chapter 9 verse 12. Ezra chapter 9 verse 12. I'm going to end this with that. All right? For everyone watching, make sure you subscribe to No Cowards Hudson Valley on YouTube.
That's right.
On Hudson Valley Israelites on Facebook, right? Subscribe, call. You can take down our email, I.S.U.P.K HudsonValley@gmail.com. If you're in Spring Valley, if you're in Poughkeepsie, if you're in Yonkers, if you're in Newburgh, if you're in Harriman, if you're in Mount Vernon, if you're in Nyack and Haverstraw, if you're in Monroe, make sure you contact us if you're Black, Hispanic, and Native American. We're out here for you doing the Lord's work, trying to wake up our people. So why don't you do what's best for you? And join us to help wake up the rest of Black, Hispanic, and Native American people all across this nation. You got that?
Come.
Read.
Ezra 9 and 12. Now therefore give not your daughters unto their sons, neither take their daughters unto your sons, nor seek their peace or their wealth forever. Be strong and eat the good of the land and leave it for an inheritance to your children.
So listen, there's a question that was posted, and I'm going to answer that after this, right? So it says, therefore, don't give your beautiful Black and Hispanic and Native American princesses, your daughters, to white men and Asian men and Arab men. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't let your Black, Hispanic, and Native American princes, your strong, mighty men, marry white whores and Asian whores and Arab whores and African whores. Don't do that. Nor seek their peace. Don't try to be friends with white people, with Asians and with Arabs and Africans. Leave them alone. Have peace amongst yourselves. Learn how to forgive another Black, Hispanic, and Native American man and woman. Learn how to build a business with another Black, Hispanic, and Native American man and woman. Learn how to make your community safe with Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. Learn how to create your own business. You don't need their wealth. You don't need their money. You don't need their fame, right? That way you can be strong. That way your race of people can be strong and mighty and have good land that they can eat off of. That way you can leave an inheritance to your children so they can grow and spread forever. Now, I got a question that was posted on Facebook. It says, Salakia, sir, if a woman whose mother is a heathen, but her father is Israel, yet in looks she favors the appearance of the heathen, is she unlawful to deal with? Right? Mariah Carey.
Right.
Looks like a white woman.
Right.
Her dad is Black.
Right.
Nick Cannon was right to marrying her and have kids with her.
Right.
Bob Marley looks Black.
Right.
His dad was a white man.
Right.
Who raped a 16-year-old, 15-year-old Jamaican woman. He is a heathen. So looks don't matter. What you call it? Blake Griffin, the basketball player with the weird ass elbow.
Right.
His dad is a Black man.
Right.
His mom a white woman.
Right.
Blake Griffin looks like a white man, but his dad is Black. Now, guess what? Blake Griffin did what every other athlete does and gets himself a white woman.
Right.
So Blake Griffin, who has a Black father, Blake Griffin, who looks like his white mother, married another white woman, and now Blake Griffin has a son that looks more white than himself. But guess what? Blake Griffin's white-looking son is still a Black man.
Right.
Who's just white-looking.
Right.
It's extremely lawful to marry them. As long as the father and that person's father and that person's father is Black, Hispanic, or Native American and not a heathen, it doesn't matter if they're rainbow, pink, blue, and green. Okay, that's a little excessive, but it's to exaggerate the point that you can marry them. You can be with them. Just know that your kids might end up looking purple, green, or blue, you know?
Right.
Like my dad, he's darker than me. He married my mom, who has a white looking father. I came out a much lighter skinned than my dad. But I'm still Israel. Blake Griffin came out looking like a white boy. But his dad is a Haitian. He's still Israel. So yes, it doesn't matter if the child looks like a heathen, as long as that child's father is an Israelite, it's completely lawful to be with them.
Right.
All right? Let me see if there's any more questions on YouTube. All right, and with that, I'm Priest and Officer Shagapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Under Command General YAHANNA. This has been the Wednesday law class for the Hudson Valley and for every other Black, Hispanic, and Native American out there that joined to watch this class today. And with that, shalom. Let me end this feed.